Hello, everybody. Happy Tuesday. How are you? How is your month going? And how is your year going so far? I have to be honest, mine has had a bit of an up and down start. I began last week feeling really motivated, really productive, just like, yeah, I'm going to do everything right this year. I'm going to feel really happy. And then I started yesterday on a bit of a downer. And I've been thinking about it this morning. I think it's because I had like a list of things I wanted to achieve last week and I didn't get all of them done. So I'm feeling like I failed and I'm starting to question whether I'm good enough and whether I've got the confidence to get everything done that I need to. And of course, that then has a knock on effect to this week. So it is really good timing in that case that our topic today for the first proper episode of this podcast is confidence. Now, first, I just wanted to tell you a little bit about myself. So, I am Amy Downs, the content planning wizard, and I am on a mission to create an online army of women who are keen to make magic happen through their business and through their social media. And of course, that's the bit that I want to help you with. The podcast is an extension of that mission. So it is another way for me to be able to share with you the topics that I like to cover with clients, but also for you to come and get more out of me and my guest experts who I will have along with me each week to talk about whatever topic it is we're covering. Each of the topics comes from my digital spellbook, and that is something you can sign up to for free on my website. And when you sign up for that, you get access to weekly tips from me, and they have been pulled together in an order to create a process for you to follow so that when you do each step, you will see a transformation in your social media. I love the fact that it just goes through all the different parts that I know are going to make a massive difference for you. And each of the topics from those emails is going to create a topic for these episodes. So you can see how the idea is it's all going to work together. So the podcast is, I know you will probably have loads and loads that you listen to. I was just saying to our guest speaker how I have loads and I tend to listen on replay. But what I want to be different about this one is that it is live. So that means that you guys get to be a part of the podcast. You get to share with me any thoughts that you have. You get to ask me or the expert speaker any questions that you have. And we can really start to connect with each other, not just through the screen, but in the comments as well. So I hope that you guys are going to really, really enjoy that. And on that note, I just want to give you a reminder that you should have a little link in the what's the word I'm looking for, in the post that is asking StreamYard, asking you to give me permission to see your details, basically. So all that means is that when somebody comments, as Ruth has, hello lovely Ruth, I can see that it's you. So that's really nice for me because then I can carry on chatting with you, and me and my guests will know who we're talking to. So with that in mind, let's get back to the topic of the podcast today. We are talking about confidence. Now, when I work with clients and in all of my content, I try to talk to people about the 4 cons of social media. So and I know that when we talk about the cons of social media, that probably brings a lot of negativity into your mind. I know that we could probably all talk about the negative sides of social media until we're blue in the face. However, I want to flip that mindset, and I want, whenever you hear about the negatives of social media, I want to pop into your head, oh, Amy's 4 cons. And you're going to think of these 4 areas that you can work on to make your social media more of a success. So those 4 areas are confidence, consistency, connections, and conservation. And those are the topics we will go through in these episodes. And as you've just heard, confidence is that first one. And that is because I believe that is the most important area that you need to work on before you sit down to create any content. You need to feel good about what it is you are creating. And the first way to help you do that is to come up with a plan, to know where you're going, to know what you want to get out of your content, but also by extension in your business. So making sure that your social media is supporting your business goals, your business mission. And then, of course, the most important part of that is actually believing that you can make those plans happen. And that is definitely where I struggle the most. And I think it probably is the same for a lot of business women. So that is why I have invited the confidence coach, Nicole Greenfield Smith, onto the show. Welcome, Nicole. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Hi.
I'm really excited to have you here. To begin with, do you want to tell everybody a little bit about what you do?
Yeah, so I'm Nicole Greenfield Smith. I head up the Confidence Craft. And by trade, I suppose I'm a master neuro coach. So I'm one of a handful of master neuro coaches in the UK. And my whole premise is working from the inside out. So what goes on in people's brains to what they put out there and communicate to other people. And I just love it. I love it because helping people believe and achieve and receive in abundance, well, that is a beautiful thing, right? Who doesn't want more of that? But
I
the
definitely think that's sorry, go on.
Oh, no, I was saying the reason I do what I do is because so many people either are confident on the inside but struggle to put it out there, or they're really good at projecting confidence, but they don't necessarily feel it on the inside. And that's something I've witnessed for years. So that's why I set up the Confidence Craft.
Amazing. Perfect. And I think that's definitely one of the things I like most about the work that I do is when somebody comes in feeling really shy and feeling really worried about what they're doing and everything just feeling like it's going wrong. But actually, once you sit down and you talk with other people about it, especially if it's somebody who knows what they're doing, then you feel like actually I have a direction and I have no reason to doubt myself anymore.
Absolutely. And one of the best things you can do is talk about this stuff, and particularly for those of you who struggle with imposter syndrome. So I know a lot of people watching this, particularly when it comes to social media, will think, oh, everyone else is really good at this and I'm kind of just winging it and faking it. But the
Yeah.
whole point is with things like imposter syndrome, for example, it will make you feel isolated and different to other people. So actually that connection and making sure you are talking about it and you're honest with your feelings, it's showing a bit of vulnerability. It actually is one of the nicest ways to connect with other people because we all feel the same things ourselves. So I'm all for that.
Thank you. And obviously, I agree. And that is what I really genuinely hope this podcast can do. If we can gather up a bit of consistency and lots of people come and join us for lunchtimes on a Tuesday, then we can start to chat with each other and just create an army of women that are there to back each other. And that's always my goal through social media. Going on to your specialist topic, though, what do you think it is that impacts our confidence the most? What is it that knocks us down?
Oh, I could talk about this until the cows come home. I think the most important thing to start off with is that it really doesn't matter how talented or knowledgeable you are, because you'll only ever go as far as your confidence lets you. And this is one of the things that we're often conditioned to believe, is that talent is amazing and the holy grail, and we all need more knowledge and we want to tool ourselves up with as many courses and qualifications as possible, and then we'll feel confident. It doesn't work like that. It really doesn't. So in terms of where confidence comes from, it's a mix of lots of different things, but it generally starts from the moment we're born. So
Mm.
genetics account for a little, well, up to about 50% of how confident you'll feel. Most people, it's around about 25%. So it's the environmental and behavioral factors that you experience as you grow up and as you move through each stages of life that determine how confident you feel in any one moment. And that will change from one situation to another and one context to another as well. But the way I explain it is it's kind of like a wall. So every single life stage you're going through, you're putting on layers onto your wall. Now, for some of us, we may have had negative experiences when we were little. We may have been told that we needed to be a certain way or do certain things in order to be worthy. And that's like having bricks knocked out at the bottom of your wall, or just never putting those bricks there in the first place. And so this is why a lot of the women I work with will say, well, I used to feel more confident than I feel now. And if you think about it, you haven't got as many bricks on your wall when you're younger. There's less at stake. But the more you do, the more you achieve, the more you learn, the more you go through the ranks, either in business or work or whatever, the more pressure you're putting on the top. And if those gaps are there at the bottom, then what happens is your wall feels really unstable. So confidence is always about kind of the sense of identity and your self-belief and all the things that have shaped that. And you can change it. And this is one of the things I want everyone to know that's listening to this, is absolutely you can learn to be more confident. It is not something you're just born with.
I really love that analogy of building a wall, and there's more to overcome the more experiences you have. That's
Yeah.
so, and is it about knocking that wall down, or is it learning how to climb it, do you think?
Oh, I definitely wouldn't want to knock anyone's wall down. No, what it's about is strengthening it. So if there's dodgy foundations, you need to strengthen those dodgy foundations in order to build taller. And again, the pattern I see, and the pattern loads of you here will repeat, is you'll keep adding things on the top. So, oh, well, in order to feel confident, I need to excel in that area, or do this or do that.
Yeah.
And you'll keep adding things on the top. But unless you've sorted what's at the bottom, it's never really going to have the impact you want. All you're doing is creating more stress and more things to put strain on the wall. So those foundations, that identity, the relationship you have with yourself, your sense of self-belief, self-worth, all of those things are absolutely integral to you feeling more confident in not just business, but in everything you do. Everything.
Just gonna segue in there that actually that is firmly what I believe about social media as well. I think that you have to be confident, you have to have laid the right foundations to then be building. Otherwise, you will always come back to, oh, my posts aren't getting seen, or I'm not getting anything out of this. But actually, if you're feeling confident and clear in what you want to get out of it, you are more likely to get those results. So I
Yeah.
completely with you on the laying the foundations. It's just that for me, I think that one of the things you need to do to lay the foundations on social media is make sure you're feeling confident in yourself. I have had people who I've wanted to work with in the past, and actually they haven't felt confident about where their business is going.
Yeah.
And I've said to them, do you know what? We need to wait. We need to wait until you have figured that out first. Here's a few people I love that you can go and connect with, because that's the most important thing to me, is not wasting your time, because that then knocks your confidence, and it's that horrible vicious circle. And I love one thing that gets me is actually how that then impacts the rest of your life. If I'm
Mhm.
struggling with work, I struggle with motherhood as well. I
Yes.
struggle with being a patient, kind mum. It's a scary thing, isn't it? How it links to everything. Hi, Eleanor. Thank you for commenting.
Oh my God. Yeah. Everything links to everything else. You can't just live your life in different buckets. It just doesn't work that way. And this is part of the problem. And I love the fact actually that you've said to people, I'd love to work with you, but you're not ready yet, because often people will try to find the easiest cure to their immediate problem. And then, because that's easy, right? It feels like a quick fix. But actually, if it's confidence related, you're not going to be able to necessarily execute the strategies that someone like you is creating. You're not going to be able to put into place all the amazing things that are going to be able to help your business surge forward. And this is one of the things I see time and time again, is people who will employ amazing strategists and amazing social media managers who are brilliant at what they do and have wonderful results with their clients, but they just don't get the traction. And it's nothing to do with the person who's doing the work, and everything to do with the confidence and how they feel about themselves, because it will always be that invisible glass ceiling that holds you back. So in order to get a different result, you have to raise that ceiling.
Yeah.
It's just how it goes. And it's a difficult pill to swallow, because it doesn't feel like something that you can easily fix. But actually,
Yes.
most of us can, with with a bit of work. You
Some
can.
real some very small tweaks sometimes, that's all it takes, isn't it? Eleanor has just said, "I can write social media for people all day, but when it comes to writing it for
Yes.
myself, I really struggle." And that's so, so true.
Well,
And leads me very nicely into the next question that I was gonna ask. I was on a training last night, and we were talking, a lady was sharing her lack of confidence over pitching herself to people because she feels like she's boasting. And
uh-huh.
I wonder if that is something that a lot of women struggle with, is we don't wanna feel like we're being too arrogant. Why do you think women, I think this is backed up by a lot of stats as well, but why women struggle more though with their confidence than men?
Oh, like, again, this is something we could talk
Favorite
about all
topic.
day. It's a huge amount of it is conditioning. So as women, we're taught that we have to parent like we don't have jobs, and have jobs like we don't have kids. And, we're supposed to be the giving people, and you want to put yourself out there, but you don't want to be, bolshy or bossy or arrogant. There's all these expectations that we've kind of just absorbed and been told from the moment we've grown up. You know, we've got to look a certain way, we've got to behave a certain way in order to fit in and to be worthy. And that has a massive impact when it starts to come to your own business, basically, because all those bits of conditioning, they start having like a magnifying glass just put onto them and a spotlight, because it all comes to the fore when you have to be the spokesperson for yourself and for your business. And things like sales, for example, can very quickly become a problem because you don't want to seem boastful. But actually, if there's one thing I would love everyone who is listening to this to take away, it's that confidence and arrogance don't even belong on the same scale, right? You cannot become overconfident. Now, everyone's going to think, what? Of course you can. But no. So confidence is about what's in you. It's, you know, we talk about quiet confidence. Oh,
Yeah.
quite confident. It's because it's about what's in your own head. No one else can necessarily see those things, right? It's about the way that you talk to yourself, the way you believe, the conceptions and the perceptions that you have about yourself and the world around you. It's what's in your head. Arrogance sits right at the opposite end of the scale, because it's not about what's in your head. It's about how you're trying to put yourself above other people and using them to kind of prop up how you feel about yourself. So actually, confident people don't need to do that. They don't need to do it because there's no need, there's no benefit. So actually, you can't become too confident. And that's one of the biggest things I hear women say. And that's one of the biggest reasons why we often struggle to do things like sales and talk about our own social media, because we don't want to big ourselves up. And we're worried about judgment as well. You often worry about, oh God, well, what will they think of me? Or what will my past colleagues think? And they'll think, who the hell does she think she is? And all of those things. But really, that still, it's about you, and it's about how you feel about yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. And I still can't nail why us women struggle more with it. I wonder if it's because we think more.
Oh,
Who knows? Who knows?
there's
But
really some really interesting studies, actually, loads of them over the years, that say the same thing over and over again, and that is men typically overestimate their abilities and women typically underestimate them. So we often surprise ourselves by doing well in tests and things, but blokes will often be like, yeah, you know, that went really well. And then the results come back and it wasn't as good. That's just generally a thing that's been born out of research for a long, long time now. And again,
yeah,
it is to do with conditioning, that we place all these pressures on ourselves, and yeah, generally underestimate what we're capable of, which is a real
I,
bummer.
I often think it's partly because we're pushing against what society expects us of. Like
Yes.
being business owners is not what the patriarchy expects us to do, as it were. And so we feel like they're questioning us, so we're questioning
Mhm.
ourselves. And actually, sometimes we'd be better off just going to that other end of the confidence scale and just saying, no, do you know what? I am perfectly capable of doing this, because if we portray ourselves as that way, then we will be accepted as that way. So I think it's probably a bit about fighting against barriers. So my belief is, once we've done it, the ladies that come behind us won't have to worry about it so much,
Yes,
hopefully.
absolutely. And that, oddly, is one of the reasons why I work with women and not men. I work with the odd man here and there, but generally it's the perceptions around self and how confidence works is generally quite different
Yeah.
between the two. And yeah, you're dealing with a lot of very different issues because of all that conditioning and because of, you know, the impact of the patriarchy, let's be honest.
Yes, absolutely, definitely. So with that in mind, if we are struggling with our confidence, I have a little on my Trello board. I have a list called mindset and a few little tricks that I
Mm.
do. So if I'm feeling overwhelmed, or if I'm just having a low day, the low day one says go and get a nap. That's my tip
I
for
love
myself.
that.
But if one of the things is confidence. So what would your tips be? I know on your website the Confidence Craft focuses on the 7 steps to confidence. Do you want to share some of them with people who are listening?
Yeah, that's kind of more the process that you need to go through in order to build confidence at the end. But in terms of quick win tips, if that's more what people would find helpful right now, I'd say the main thing is to appreciate that your best is going to look different every single day. And you know, when I've spent a long time studying the brain and the body and the nervous system and how they connect between the two, and actually one of the biggest things to know is if you are feeling tired or off color or crappy or low, you're going to revert to the easiest behaviors, because what
Yeah.
you'll do is you'll revert back to kind of old habits. So this is where self-sabotage kicks So, you might, we're at this point in January, actually, it's worth noting, a lot of us kind of roar into the new year. Yes, I'm going to be new me, and I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do that, and I'm going to do this in my business, and I'm going to be super healthy, and like all these things happen. And then now everything starts just falling off a bit. And that is generally because it's about now that we start getting tired and we haven't got that same energy anymore. So you revert back to type. So the point is to appreciate that your best is going to look different every single day, and to be kind to yourself. Like, the antidote for criticism, the criticism that goes on in your head, is self-kindness always. Appreciating that everyone struggles, that your best is going to look different every day, that you can do what you want to do, but actually you just need to be gentle with yourself. So that would be the first thing, just know and adjust accordingly and be super kind. But my other points would be to start really slowly. So there's so many blooming confidence misperceptions. Like, it's unbelievable. One is like, oh, we should all be pushing ourselves outside our comfort zone. No, actually, and this is a bit controversial,
I
but
like that one.
the thing is, from your brain's perspective, from how we all work as humans, the last thing you want is to be uncomfortable, right? Your comfort zone is there to keep you nice and safe, as we all know. So if you're constantly fighting yourself and constantly trying to push yourself outside of your comfort zone, you are going to feel uncomfortable. And that is going to mean your brain's going to kick in. It's going to take loads of extra effort. It's going to feel like a massive risk pushing yourself outside your comfort zone. And eventually you'll revert back to old behaviors. So it just doesn't work very well. I generally think what you need to be doing is thinking about, well, what baby steps can I take? Tiny little steps that feel like they're on the edge of what I'm capable of achieving. So if you imagine, like, I call it the confidence zone. So if you imagine, like, in the middle is your target, you've got all the stuff right out here that feels like it's a mile away from what you could possibly achieve right now. And then somewhere in the middle, you've got the stuff that you could do with just a little bit of effort, but you have to think about it. That's the stuff you want to keep doing over and over and over again until that becomes normal. So say, for example, going live. Like, I'm sure there's a lot of ladies watching this who thought, oh God, I absolutely hate it. I hate going live. And that feels like a massive leap if you've never done it before. So what can you do? Can you start recording videos of yourself? Just little videos of yourself, like 30-second videos that you then just post, right? And you can post it to a limited number of people, maybe at the start, who are going to be sympathetic and kind, and you do that until that feels normal, until you're used to seeing yourself on screen, until you're used to hearing your voice on screen. You do that. And then, okay, what do you do next time? Well, you widen the audience group maybe. And then what do you do next time? Well, then I maybe invite people in for a closed discussion and host an interview with someone else, or got someone else to fall back on. Keep doing that until you get good at it. And then eventually what you'll find is you're taking huge leaps without it ever feeling like it's going to make you throw up. Those horrible feelings that generally stop you from doing things. So that would be probably one of the biggest tricks you can use, because you're then working with your brain and your nervous system rather than constantly trying to fight against it. Because if you're fighting against it, it's going to be really hard to stay consistent. And you talked about consistency being one of the cons. So that is fundamental. So if everyone does that, and then also I think just to know, we're always fearful of judgment. That's like one of the biggest ones for women in business. You're like, oh my God, what are people going to think of me? What if I mess up? What if I screw up? What if I say something that comes out stupid? Oh. The chances are virtually people never thinking those things because they're too busy thinking about themselves. They really are, right? So if you put yourself out there and you show up and you're imperfect, then actually you'll have a whole load of people who go, oh, she's just like me. Like, oh, thank God. It's that kind of level of perfection all the time isn't necessarily helpful in creating rapport. So actually showing the real you, like the disheveled you, the you who doesn't look perfect on camera, who stumbles over a word occasionally, who comes out with innuendos when you don't want to, like all of those different things make you human. And that leads to the other con that you were talking about, which is connection. And that is one of the most beautiful things in business. Like the people I follow online, they're not all perfect and super shiny. Often they're just funny as hell, and they show the real side of life and business. And you will probably have that too. So the judgment is coming from you. It's not usually coming from other people. It's coming from how you feel about yourself. And that's really important to know.
I love how you've worked your way through the three of the four cons. It's like that's
What a-
perfect. But that is exactly why I've designed that the way it is, because it is confident. Once you're feeling confident, you will be consistent. And it's
Yeah.
only when you're consistent that you can then make connections. Consistency for me is the single most important thing about marketing. But you can't have that until you've got confidence, and the end goal is making connections with people to end up working with them. So it just shows it's a big circle as well, because when you
It
make the
is.
connections, you start to feel more confident about what you're doing, and then
Yeah.
that goes back into you being able to show up consistently and work consistently as well, not having to change what you're doing all the time and things, and panic and think, oh god, this isn't working, I need to throw everything into the bin and start again. So yeah, absolutely, I really like the way you linked that to what we were talking about. Thank you. Speaking of confidence and marketing, I know that you have a background in marketing. Is that
Yeah, I
right?
worked in advertising for over 20 years. So yeah, advertising and advertising research. Yeah.
So I bet you can really relate to this idea of women really struggling to sell
Oh,
themselves. What do you think it is that knocks, again, for women in business, what do you
mm.
think it is that knocks our confidence when it comes to showing up, in particular on social media? Why do you think? I mean, to be honest, I think you've probably already nailed it, but what other factors do you think that there are that stop us from wanting to go live or even just posting something?
Yeah, I mean, it's true. So I will hasten to add that when I worked in advertising, there were so many people who could walk the walk. Oh, sorry, walk the talk, but not necessarily believe it on the inside. And that is one of the biggest reasons why I started my business. So they're really good at doing stuff for other people. They're really good at saying the right things, but they weren't believing it on the inside. And that is one of the things I see that happens time and time again in business and massively holds women back. And I think a lot of it comes back down to judgment again. So this idea that everyone's judging you, that you're not going to measure up to the standard that either you've set for yourself or you think that other people have set. And the crying shame about that, and this is a crying shame, is that nobody's good at anything when they start. Right? You don't just suddenly pick up a bike and learn to ride it. You know, you fall off a few times and you wobble, and then eventually you learn to ride a bike, and it's a skill you've got for life. So much is the same driving. If you learn to drive, you know, it's like, oh my God, like your brain's doing overtime thinking, what do I do next? And you have to put all the things together until eventually you just do it automatically. And the point is that if you're not being consistent and you're not doing those things, it never
No.
has an opportunity to become automatic in your brain. And this is what your brain wants. It wants you to be able to create the right connections that just stop it having to think all the time. So you have to keep going. And so many women just stop at that hurdle. So they will do something for a bit. They will post on their social media and then go off for a few months. They will do a live and then decide they didn't like it and so never do another one. They'll email their list sporadically, like once every few months, and then for a week full on, and then once every few months again. And that does nothing to feed confidence, like literally nothing to feed confidence, because your brain has never got that opportunity to make those processes automatic. So there's that. Comparison is a massive one. So obviously we are so bombarded with social media. I mean, you just literally flick onto your phone and you see all these people. It always makes me laugh. They're always in Dubai at the moment and wearing nice hats. I mean, know what it is. We've got to go to Dubai in first class and wear nice hats in business. And, you know, that's a benchmark. You've made it. But you know what? Oh my God, like everyone following a same formula isn't necessarily going to resonate with your ideal clients. You know, people pick you
Mm,
because they like you. There will be a million and one people who offer whatever it is you offer. And I will hand on heart say, I don't care what it is you do. There will be other people who do what you do, because none of us are unique in this space, particularly. So it's about that connection. It absolutely is. And it's about not comparing yourself to other people, because no one can do you like you can, and you can't do other people like they can. And whatever your draw is, whatever your uniqueness is, that is what someone is going to connect with.
yeah,
And the more you feel confident enough to show that and worry less about your vulnerabilities, the better.
yeah,
But, you know, resilience is part of that too, because, you know, people aren't always kind online, let's be honest. And by putting yourself out in that space, you are opening yourself up potentially to
yeah,
those responses. But actually, really, does it matter? Because they're not your people.
yeah.
And if you create that connection, it just flows. It flows.
Absolutely. Um, Before I move on to the final questions, I just want to say to anybody watching, whether you're on live or a replay, do let me know if you've got any questions for Nicole, especially if you're watching with us right now, so I can pose them to Nicole before we go. But yeah, I think what I did want to say about that was that's a genuine worry from a lot of women that I work with, that what they put out there, they'll get a negative response, because we
Mhm.
see it all the time. I more often than not, I see it being called out where someone's shared a
Yes.
nasty comment that they've
Yes.
had. I see more of that than I do actual nasty comments. But my belief is, if you're posting from a place, a genuine place of kindness, so if you're being the real you and you're posting to help people, I don't think you will get a negative response, especially the kind of worlds we're all in. I think most of the people who would be watching this, you and I, we come from a supportive community. That is what I think women in business, especially mums,
Mm.
online, we are really good at bigging each other up. I don't think there's been any clients that I have worked with that have had a negative comment on their social media while I've worked with them. I'm not saying that's me, I'm just saying that's the kind of people we are. You just don't get the negativity. Having said that, poor old Ruth, who's just commented, Nicole, I think you know Ruth, don't
I
Ruth
do
Gwynn.
know it. Yeah.
There is a lot of negativity around your topic, and you are absolutely right about Ruth is a baby wearing expert. So yes, absolutely, there is negativity around that field. But as Ruth has said, it's other experts who are sharing negative opinions or stories. A lot of them do it to get their engagement up. That is the flat out truth. People share negative thoughts to get their engagement up. I sometimes do it. I don't think it's negative, but it's more right. I feel really strongly about this, so I'm going to put it out there. Especially AI. I like a good rant about ChatGPT, and I know that that is going to get a good response because people will have thoughts on that. But you can do
Yes.
it from a positive place. So a friend of mine who's a copywriter, she does criticize AI, but she also balances that with saying, but I understand that it can be helpful and this is how to make it useful, if that makes sense. So
Yeah.
it's the way you say things. But I suppose that is then where we have the worry of, oh my goodness, what if somebody takes something I've said wrong? And that then circles back to the lovely tips that you gave us. People aren't thinking about you as much as you think they are. And we
Oh,
have to just think, just, you know what? Focus on your confidence and your messaging, and if we get to a point where someone's negative, A, that's what the block button's for. And B, we can deal with that further down the line. But for the most part, I generally don't know many people who get negativity on their posts. I think we're quite lucky with the
no.
world we work in.
I mean, the only negativity I've received has been from men, as in men.
Hmm.
Why? But they're not my audience. So actually, the
Yeah,
way you look at it is if someone's having an emotional reaction to something you've written, they're not scrolling past, right? You're memorable. When I worked in advertising, we always had this kind of well, it was based on a piece of research actually, but it was ideally be liked. If you can't be liked, be remembered. And this is the thing, even if you're posting something that gets a whole raft of negative comments, you are being remembered, right? You're being pushed
yeah,
up the algorithm. So as long as you've got the confidence and the resilience to be able to deal with that and you carry on with the consistency, actually it shows that what you're saying means something. It's tapping into what people think and what they feel enough for them to actually act on it. And that's a really good thing. That proves you're doing your job because you're never going to be for everyone. In the same
yeah,
way that none of us like every single person we meet with, you're never going to say stuff that everybody resonates with. And if you do, it's crap, quite
yeah,
frankly. There's no point. I mean, even if someone's not writing it, you want to be able to create that level of, yes, I identify with that person, or no, I don't, scroll on.
yeah,
If you're doing
yeah.
that, you know what? That's quite a positive thing overall, as long as you've got the confidence to deal with it.
Definitely. That, funnily enough, is something I want to make sure I cover for Mental Health Awareness Month, because that's something I feel very strongly about. So we'll come back to that topic further down the line. Before we go, I wanted to ask you, Nicole, if there are any areas of social media where you struggle with confidence, and see if I can help you today.
You know what? LinkedIn. Right.
Oh yeah,
I know for my business, I famous word, I should probably be doing more on LinkedIn. But what I find challenging with LinkedIn is the lack of genuine connection. So virtually everyone spamming you immediately with "come along to my whatever" in your inbox off the back of literally nothing. It's like going on a first date and them trying to stick their tongue down your throat. I'm like, no, thank you. That doesn't feel good for me. So generally, I have a presence on LinkedIn, but I don't necessarily engage with it as much as I would like to, because I find it all a bit like a bit icky. But
Yeah.
yeah.
I totally relate to that. Funnily enough, that's an area that I've been wanting to branch out into. So I have been posting more consistently on there, and I am getting some comments, but I'm not quite at the point where we have nice, proper conversations like I do on Facebook. However, I take your point. First piece of advice would be just don't bother looking in your inbox. You'll see if it's a name you know, and then you know to give it time. But you will. The best one is on your birthday, when you get about a million messages, happy birthday, happy birthday, and your phone's just going off all day with people you don't know. It's that, and it happens on Facebook as well, because it's an automatic button that people can tick to make life easier. So really, that, I suppose that's the same on a level with, when you get cold DMs spamming you on
Yes.
Facebook.
Yeah.
I feel like we've reached the point now where just ignore it,
Oh, I
because
do.
you're
I
kind
like
of
it all
feeding
day.
it.
Yeah.
So many people are calling it out, and I'm like, do you know what? Just ignore them. Just
Mm.
because if you don't feed them, if you don't respond to them, they'll realize that tactic isn't working, and they'll stop doing it. So don't even answer, don't even look at the messages. But anyway, I would say treat LinkedIn the same. Just ignore them. And then in terms of it feeling a bit icky, I'm trying to spend 10 minutes a day just scrolling down my timeline. Some of that is getting rid of people that I'm no longer aligned to, if that's the right word, that are no longer my ideal clients. Because in the past, I've done engagement tasks where I've
Mm.
connected with a load of people. So the aim of that is that I will have the right people that I can see their content and engage with them. And I think once you start to do that, you see the engagement better, you see their content better, and you start to get to build a relationship. In my humble opinion, as a fairly newbie to LinkedIn, I do think it is easier for engagement. However, it is definitely something that takes some time to grow. So
Mm.
it depends where your ideal clients are. So if you feel like yours, and I don't just mean you, Nicole, I mean everybody in general, if you feel like you are getting enough leads through Facebook, focus on that. If you feel like Instagram is the one for you, focus on that. For me, I know that the service that I have to offer may well be for slightly bigger organizations who are likely to be on LinkedIn. So that's why I'm trying that one out there, to see if I can just connect with some more business owners and see if they are the right people for this package. So it's about giving it all a bit of a try, but don't be scared about LinkedIn. And the other thing I would say is, I know your content fairly well, having scrolled through it quite a bit recently. It, it LinkedIn has very different types of content over there now. So the stuff
Yes,
you
it
are
does.
posting on
Yeah.
Facebook will work on LinkedIn. I maybe wouldn't make it quite so, I don't know, colloquial, is that the right word? Quite so chatty, but then I don't know, they like that. So the genuine, authentic you showing up over there is what is going to work, rather than, professional sales posts, stuff about, your business, who I am, like my selling spiel that I do about me. I always try and word that a little bit differently each time. But if you've got a paragraph on your website that describes exactly what you do in bullet points or whatever, it's not necessarily going to be right for any social media audience. You have to make it more chatty and engaging. So yeah, I would just say don't feel scared of it. And also, did you know you can schedule on LinkedIn now? So that makes life
Look
so
at that.
much easier on
Yeah.
there. It's really, really good. So great question. Thank you. And thank you also for joining me in general. I've really, really enjoyed the first chat. So what I want to do now is just tell you a little bit about the next session that I have got. So the what I'm aiming to do is run the podcast every 2 weeks. So the next one is going to be on Tuesday, the 30th of January, and the topic for that is ideal clients. So that is another one of the topics that I cover in my digital spell book. You can access that, by the way, by visiting my website. When you visit the website, you'll see a little pop-up box that comes up. If you pop your email in, that will give you access to those weekly tips from me and opportunities to ask me any questions that you have and come and join me on any of my trainings that you want. But yes, so on the 30th of January at 1 o'clock again, I'm aiming for it to be at lunchtime, so you guys can join me live if you can, but it will be available as a replay on my Facebook group, my YouTube, and on my LinkedIn. I can see that LinkedIn has worked today, which is a massive plus. That's the first time I've streamed there live. So I would love you to join me for the next one. I will be talking to Katie Spreadbury, who is a market research consultant and runs an amazing Facebook group called How to Be an Ideal Client Magnet. Now, what I love about Katie is it's very much about knowing the person you are talking to in your content so that you can connect with them. And of course, we've talked about that today. So once you're feeling confident about who you are and what you want to help people with, you can then get out there and connect with the right people through your content. So we're going to be talking about that, and I'll be sharing what I believe is quite an important tip to make a difference for you when you think about your ideal client. I swerve away a little bit from the ideal client avatar because I just find that very corporate. I have a different way of thinking about it. So I hope that you will join me on the 30th for that topic. And again, thank you ever so much, Nicole, for joining me today. See you all in a couple of weeks.
Take care.